The sharp click of a cage door echoed through the cold room, its sound slicing through the heavy silence. Logan stood frozen, staring into the eyes of a dog who wasn't begging for attention, he was waiting. When Logan whispered the name, Axel, something within the German shepherd stirred. It wasn't just the name. It was a spark, an echo of something long forgotten. Something had shifted. Logan's breath caught in his chest as the dog, once motionless, slowly turned its head toward him, the eyes, dull and lifeless just moments ago, now held in intense, almost human recognition. For a brief second, time seemed to freeze. Logan spoke again, more urgently. Axel. The dog's response was a deliberate movement, and in that moment, they both knew something had begun, something neither could turn away from. Logan Merrick lived a life of quiet solitude, hidden behind the rusted walls of his mechanic shop in Millstone, Pennsylvania. His hands were stained with oil, his face weathered with years of regret. Once, he had worn the uniform of a soldier, part of an elite unit, trained to follow orders without question. But that life was gone now, shattered by one fateful decision. During a mission, Logan had defied orders to protect an innocent civilian caught in the crossfire. The consequences were swift and brutal. He was dishonorably discharged, his reputation destroyed, and his career over. Now, he lived in a small town, isolated from everything he once knew. His garage had become his refuge, a place to fix what was broken, to repair the things that still had value. But in truth, Logan had never fully recovered from the trauma of his past. He had no family, no friends, only the ghosts of his mistakes. Every turn of the wrench, every repair, felt like an attempt to fix the fractured pieces of his own soul. Despite the silence that surrounded him, Logan couldn't escape the weight of his past. It clung to him, lurking at every corner of his quiet life, waiting for a spark to set it all into motion once again. Axel had been a soldier, too, but in a way that few could understand. Trained from a young age in the brutal world of military canine units, he had been molded to be an instrument of war. His every instinct honed for one purpose: survival. His bond with his handler was once unbreakable, built on shared missions and the unspoken trust between man and dog. Axel's intelligence, strength, and loyalty made him an ideal candidate for high-stakes operations. He was a tool, a weapon, and he knew no other purpose. But during a routine mission, Axel faced an impossible choice. The orders came to eliminate a threat without hesitation, but Axel saw an innocent bystander in the line of fire. He made the choice to protect the life of a civilian, choosing the right thing over following orders. The military didn't see it that way. Axel's hesitation was deemed insubordination. He was declared unstable, unfit for duty, and abandoned. His name erased from the records. Now, Axel sat in the cold, lifeless cage of the shelter, where he had been forgotten, his spirit broken. His body was strong, but his heart was fractured. No one knew what he had endured, what he had sacrificed. No one cared. Axel was nothing more than K9-47 now, a discarded weapon, waiting to be erased. Don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your story. It was a drizzly afternoon when Logan's life shifted, and it all began with a simple flyer. He had no intention of going to the shelter. The mechanic's world had always been enough to keep his mind occupied. But when the flyer landed under the windshield wiper of his truck, retired K9 units for adoption public viewing, something tugged at him. The word disposal stuck to his mind like a splinter. He knew too well what it felt like to be cast aside, discarded, no longer of value to anyone. That single word brought back too many memories. Logan's feet carried him to the shelter in a trance, and as soon as he stepped inside, the cacophony of barking dogs washed over him. People moved from one cage to the next, eager to adopt a dog that could offer companionship, love, or at least a sense of purpose. But Logan wasn't there for any of that. His eyes scanned the rows of cages, stopping only when they landed on one dog, the one in the corner. And like the others, this dog wasn't begging for attention. It simply sat, still as stone, eyes vacant. Something about the dog's quiet presence struck Logan deeply. He moved closer, drawn inexplicably to the silent figure of K9-47. Logan crouched beside the cage. His eyes locked onto the German Shepherd's. The dog didn't flinch, didn't wag its tail, nothing. It was as though the animal had accepted its fate, resigned to the cold walls that surrounded it. The tag on the cage read K9-47. A number, a label, no name. The name that was supposed to belong to this creature had been erased. As Logan stared at the dog, something stirred in his chest, an unexplainable pull. The world round him blurred, and it felt like time slowed. Without even thinking, he whispered, "Axel." For the first time since he'd been confined to the shelter, the dog's body shifted. Axel's head turned ever so slightly, his eyes narrowing. The response was subtle, but unmistakable. It was as though the name had woken him from a deep slumber, something long buried, something forgotten. Axel's eyes, once lifeless, flared with a hint of recognition. It wasn't a bark, a wag of the tail, or even a growl. It was a silent acknowledgement. Logan's breath caught in his throat. He'd never met this dog before, yet he felt an undeniable connection, as if the name had been waiting to be spoken. For a moment, neither man nor dog moved, caught in a suspended silence, their fates inexplicably tied. If you believe in stories of redemption and courage, please subscribe to support our channel. We appreciate every single one of you. Axel wasn't just any dog. He had been a soldier, just like Logan. But unlike Logan, Axel had never been given the chance to walk away, bred and trained for a singular purpose. Axel's early years were spent in the rigorous world of military canine units. From the moment he was brought into the program, his fate was sealed. He wasn't meant to live a quiet life or become someone's pet. Axel was a tool trained to perform dangerous operations that pushed him beyond the limits of any normal dog. He was chosen for his intelligence, his agility, and his unwavering loyalty, all qualities that made him the perfect candidate for covert missions. For years, Axel followed orders without question, working alongside soldiers in the most treacherous environments. He saved lives. He fought beside men and women who trusted him, and in return, he was given the title of K9-47, a number, not a name. But then came the mission that changed everything. During a high-stakes operation, Axel was ordered to eliminate a threat. But there was a complication. A civilian was caught in the crossfire. In that critical moment, Axel hesitated. He made a choice. He protected the innocent. It wasn't a choice the military appreciated. Axel had broken protocol. He was labeled a liability, his loyalty questioned, and just like that, the military system that had once relied on him discarded him. They sent him to the shelter, his spirit broken, his future sealed. Logan's life had been shaped by the very system that abandoned Axel. He'd once been a proud soldier, much like the dog in front of him, trained for combat, prepared to sacrifice everything for a cause. But unlike Axel, Logan had been given a choice that would come to haunt him during a mission gone wrong. He had been ordered to follow a direct command, but something stopped him. When an innocent civilian found herself in the line of fire, Logan made a split-second decision. He saved her. That moment of defiance cost him everything. Logan was court-martialed. His career was destroyed, and his reputation shredded. No longer a soldier. He was discarded like a tool that no longer functioned. But the truth weighed heavier than any discharge could. Logan had broken the code. Yes, but in doing so, He had saved a life. He had done the right thing. But the military didn't care about morality. To them, Logan had failed, and, like Axel, he was cast aside, left to pick up the broken pieces of his life. He came to Millstone, a small town where no one knew his past. But the ghosts of what he'd lost followed him, the disillusionment, the guilt, the weight of his decisions, it all lingered. Just like Axel, Logan had never truly healed. He hid behind his work, repairing machines in his shop, trying to fix the parts of his life that could be salvaged. Yet, inside, he remained as broken as the engines he worked on, desperately searching for something to bring him back to life. As Logan continued visiting the shelter, his curiosity about Axel grew. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the dog's past, something the shelter staff wasn't telling him. Axel wasn't just another abandoned dog. There was a depth in those eyes, an intelligence that surpassed any animal Logan had encountered. Every time Logan would look at Axel, he was reminded of the soldiers he once served alongside, the ones who were discarded after they were no longer useful. Axel had been cast aside, but something inside Logan told him the dog's story was far from over. Determined to learn more, Logan began digging into Axel's past. He spoke to the shelter workers, but they were evasive, offering little information. He reached out to a few of his old contacts, military colleagues who had been stationed with him before the fall from grace. Slowly, bits and pieces of Axel's history started to surface. Axel had once been part of an elite K9 unit that had been shut down under mysterious circumstances. The more Logan uncovered, the darker the truth became. The real shock came when Logan learned that Axel's unit wasn't just trained for typical military missions. They had been part of a secret program designed to train animals for covert operations, pushing them beyond their limits. And when Axel hesitated during a mission, a decision that could have cost innocent lives, he had been deemed a liability and discarded. But that wasn't all. There was a cover-up. The program Axel had been part of had been shut down after a whistleblower mysteriously vanished. And now, Axel was the last remaining survivor of a dark secret. Logan was beginning to see the horrifying connections between Axel's past and his own life. The more Logan learned about Axel, the more he was torn. What had started as a simple visit to the shelter had turned into an obsession. The connections between Axel's past and Logan's own were impossible to ignore. Axel's story mirrored Logan's in so many ways, discarded by a system that used and then abandoned them both. But Logan had a choice. He could walk away from this. He could leave Axel behind, just as everyone else had. After all, what could he do? What could one man and one dog accomplish against a system so vast, so powerful? Yet, something deep within him wouldn't let him walk away. Axel had survived in the face of unspeakable cruelty. He had a purpose, even if that purpose had been buried beneath years of neglect. And Logan had felt that same spark of purpose when he first whispered the name Axel. There was no going back now. Logan couldn't simply abandon Axel the way the military had abandoned him. The system had failed both of them, and if there was any chance of redemption, it would come through a fight for justice, for truth, and for the right to be more than just discarded tools. As he stood in the shelter parking lot one evening, staring at Axel's cage in the dimming light, Logan made his decision. He couldn't allow Axel to fade away into nothing. They were both broken. Yes, but they had a chance to heal together. But that meant confronting a past neither of them could outrun. "I'm not leaving you," Logan whispered to the dog. "We'll figure this out together." The deeper Logan and Axel dug into the truth, the more dangerous their path became. What had started as a search for answers had escalated into a fight for survival. Logan's decision to take Axel into his care had unwittingly drawn the attention of the very forces that had created the monster Axel had become. The more Logan discovered about the covert military program, the more he realized just how far-reaching the consequences were. Axel wasn't just a dog. They had tried to turn him into something much darker. The first sign of trouble came when Logan received a strange, cryptic phone call. The voice on the other end was distorted, but the message was clear. "You're digging up something you shouldn't. Stop now." Logan's gut twisted with the sudden, overwhelming sense that he had just stepped into something much bigger than he had ever intended. The world he had been hiding from was closing in around him. The shelter director, the one man Logan had trusted, turned out to be connected to the very people who had orchestrated the military program. As Logan continued his investigation, it became clear that the shelter wasn't just a place for discarded pets. It was a front. A place where canines south like Axel were hidden away, silenced by those who wanted to erase their existence. Logan knew they couldn't stop now. Axel had already suffered enough, and Logan wouldn't let him be silenced again. But exposing the truth would come with a price that could cost them both everything. Their fight for survival wasn't just about taking down the people who had created Axel. It was about confronting the darkness within themselves and choosing to stand up against a system that had abandoned them both. The stakes had never been higher. Logan's investigation into Axel's past had gone far beyond what he had anticipated. What started as a search for a truth had turned into an all-out battle against a system that would do anything to keep its darkest secrets buried. As the pressure mounted, Logan found himself being watched, followed, and warned in ways that left him with a pit in his stomach. One evening, as Logan sat in his garage, the tension reached its breaking point. Axel lay quietly in the corner, watching him with those deep, knowing eyes. Logan ran his hand through his hair, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He couldn't back down now, not when Axel's past and his own were so deeply intertwined. But the consequences of exposing the truth were too high. He had already started to realize that not only his life, but Axel's as well, was at risk. It was then that the shelter director called. His voice was calm, but the underlying threat was unmistakable. "You don't know what you're dealing with. Let it go, or it won't just be your life you're risking. You'll be putting Axel's in danger, too." For a moment, Logan froze. His hand tightened around the phone, the decision weighing heavily on him. The easy choice would be to walk away, to pretend none of this had ever happened. But he couldn't. Not anymore. "I'm not backing down," Logan said, his voice steady, resolute. "Axel deserves to know the truth, and so do I." There was a pause on the other end, and then the line went dead. Logan knew that nothing would ever be the same after that moment. The fight was no longer just for Axel. It was for everything they both stood to lose. And the system would do whatever it could to ensure they never found out the truth. This character truly deserves a like. But unfortunately, they haven't gotten the recognition they deserve yet. Logan and Axel had faced their worst fears, confronted the ghosts of their pasts, and uncovered the truth. But in the end, the victory was bittersweet. They had succeeded in exposing the dark military program that had used and discarded Axel, and the corrupt officials who had tried to bury it. The world was starting to see the truth. But it wasn't the clean victory Logan had hoped for. The moment they revealed everything to the public, it was clear that the system was too vast to be toppled overnight. Powerful people had already begun to cover their tracks, erasing evidence, planting false narratives. The truth was slowly being twisted and buried again. Axel was no longer just a discarded weapon. He was a symbol of everything that had gone wrong, of a system that chewed people and animals up, and then cast them aside like trash. Logan, despite his efforts, felt the sting of betrayal. The shelter, the people he had trusted, the system he had once been a part of, they had all shown their true colors. Axel had been the one who had suffered the most, But Logan realized that, in many ways, he had too. Both of them had been used, manipulated, and forgotten. They had won the battle. But the war was far from over, and Logan realized with a heavy heart that they might never be able to undo the damage that had been done. As Logan sat in his garage, the weight of their journey pressed heavily on his chest. The world had seen the truth, but the victory felt hollow. Axel lay quietly by his side, no longer the broken dog in a cage, but a symbol of endurance, of survival. The fight for justice had been long and grueling. But somehow, amidst the chaos, there was a flicker of something new hope. Logan looked at Axel, the dog who had seen and endured the worst of humanity, and yet still trusted him. They both understood what it meant to be discarded, to be forgotten. But now, in the quiet of the garage, Logan realized that they had something no one could take from them. They had each other, and for the first time in a long time, Logan allowed himself to believe in the possibility of a future not defined by the shadows of the past, but by the strength they had found in one another. Axel's healing was far from over, and neither was Logan's. They were both scarred, in different ways, but together they had found something worth fighting for. Redemption. Logan placed a hand on Axel's head, the warmth of the dog's presence grounding him in a way words never could. "We'll figure this out, buddy, together," he whispered, and for the first time, he truly believed it. Please support this channel by subscribing. Your support means the world to us as we continue to share powerful, meaningful stories. The calm after the storm didn't last long. Days after the truth about the military program and its dark history was exposed, Logan found himself sitting in his truck, staring at a manila envelope that had mysteriously appeared at his doorstep. He hadn't heard the car pull up or the door knock, but the message was unmistakable. Inside the envelope was a grainy, black and white photo of Axel fully suited in canine armor. Beside him stood a figure, whose face had been obscured with black marker. On the back of the photo, a chilling message was scrawled in sharp handwriting. "You weren't supposed to find him." Logan's heart sank as he stared at the photo. Axel's involvement in the covert program was deeper than he had ever imagined. The photo confirmed what Logan had suspected. The military program didn't just see Axel as a tool. He had been a part of something much bigger, something that had remained buried for years. The fact that someone was still trying to erase Axel's existence was a sign that this wasn't over. But the revelation didn't end there. The symbol on the back of the photo, something Logan had seen before, was the same as the one he had noticed on Axel's hidden tracking tag. The stakes had just gotten higher, and Logan realized they were being watched. Someone, somewhere, was making sure Axel's secrets stayed buried. Logan sat motionless, staring at the photo and the cryptic message in his hands. The weight of the truth was pressing down on him. But it wasn't just the military secrets that haunted him, it was the realization that their fight was far from over. The manila envelope had been delivered with a quiet certainty, as though someone knew exactly where to find him. And Axel. Logan's mind raced. The last time he had seen that symbol was on Axel's tracking tag. It wasn't just a random insignia. It was a mark of something covert, something dangerous. The photo confirmed what Logan had feared. Axel was more than just a victim of a failed military program. He was part of a secret operation that had far-reaching consequences, and the people who ran it were determined to erase every trace of it. Logan knew they weren't safe. Not anymore. They had been marked, targeted. And now the system had come back to claim what it had lost. It was no longer just about saving Axel or finding the truth. It was about survival. He glanced down at Axel, who was sitting quietly at his side, as if sensing the change in the air. Whatever lay ahead, Logan knew one thing for sure. The battle they had begun wasn't over, and together they would face whatever came next. Logan and Axel had fought their way through the darkness, unveiling secrets that threatened to tear them apart. They had faced betrayal, danger, and loss. But in the end, they found something more powerful than revenge: redemption. It wasn't just about bringing down the corrupt system that had tried to erase them, it was about healing. About reclaiming their humanity. Axel, once a tool of war, had become a symbol of survival, and Logan, the broken man who had hidden from his past, had found a way to move forward together. They had proven that no one, not even the system, could take away their worth. The battle had been long and painful, but Logan and Axel were still standing, still fighting. Their victory wasn't one of fame or fortune. It wasn't about bringing justice to the world. It was something more intimate, more profound. They had found each other when they were at their lowest, and together they had defied the odds. Their scars, both visible and hidden, were proof of their strength, their will to survive. Logan understood now. The journey had never been just about seeking revenge. It was about finding hope in the face of destruction, and knowing that even the broken can be whole again. If you enjoyed this story, please share it with your friends and family, and leave a comment below to let us know your thoughts. Do you want to hear part 2?